On this Thursday night, escalation and retaliation. Israel's military buildup as it vows to crush and destroy Hamas in Gaza. The fears for Canadians still missing as more details emerge of the atrocities committed by Hamas.
This is something that you can't even imagine in your dreams. You cannot imagine that.
No way out. I speak with a Canadian mother trapped in Gaza with her children.
There's no vocabulary to exactly describe what we are going through.
While the first Canadians fleeing Israel get out. American ally, the message from the U.S. Secretary of State, and the fate of dozens of hostages held by Hamas. Plus, jackpot. The millions for a Montreal man after one lucky Thanksgiving.
Global National with Dawna Friesen.
Good evening and thanks for joining us. Israel's prime minister is continuing his tough rhetoric tonight, comparing Hamas to the so-called Islamic State.
Just as ISIS was crushed, so too will Hamas be crushed.
Israel launching a sixth day of punishing airstrikes on Gaza, home to more than 2 million Palestinians. More than 1,400 people there, including children, have been killed. Benjamin Netanyahu's office also posted graphic photos, too graphic to be aired on television, that it says show the bodies of Israeli babies who were murdered and burned in Saturday's brutal attack by Hamas in southern Israel. More than 1,200 people died in that attack. 130 Canadians left Tel Aviv in an emergency airlift today. 2 other planes are set to depart tomorrow, though Canadians stuck in Gaza cannot get out. Near the Gaza border, the buildup of Israeli military continues. Today, Israel said no electrical switch will be turned on, no water hydrant will be opened, and no fuel truck will enter until the hostages Hamas is holding in Gaza are freed. Our coverage begins with Jeff Semple in Jerusalem, and a warning, some of the details in his story tonight are difficult to listen to. Jeff.
Dawna, tonight we're learning new details about those hostages and about the atrocities carried out by Hamas.
They call themselves Zaka, 1,500 Israeli volunteers who conduct search, rescue, and recovery operations to ensure the victims receive a proper burial. Yossi Landau founded the organization 33 years ago. Originally from New York, he's responded to disasters all over the world, including 9/11. But nothing prepared him for this.
Have you ever seen anything like what you've seen here?
No, never. Never.
In just 4 days, his team has recovered 670 bodies, including more than 100 here in this small community near the Gaza border, with a population of 1,200 until Saturday, when Hamas gunmen entered the community and started murdering civilians, including the most horrific atrocities Landau has ever seen.
I wouldn't call them animals because it's a shame for the animals.
Landau says he found a pregnant mother and even babies who'd been stabbed and shot.
Or you see a mother that is hugging a baby and there's only one shot going through the baby and the mother. This is something that you can't even imagine.
Landau's team also saw trails of blood heading towards the Gaza border. Injured Hamas gunmen, perhaps, or their hostages.
The only thing that I care about is that my loved ones will come home safely.
11 members of Annalie Milstein's family are now presumed hostages of Hamas, including 3 children. Their extended family gathering was interrupted by the sound of gunfire. They sent anxious text messages to Annalie's family in Tel Aviv.
What was the last message you received from them?
We're in big trouble. We hope we will survive this, and we love you.
She says they tried calling over and over until finally
someone answered his phone with bad Hebrew with an Arab accent, and he said to the friend that he is kidnapped.
Hamas claims to be holding more than 100 Israeli hostages, and Global News has learned of another Canadian on that list. This video was recorded inside a safe house after Hamas gunmen attacked partygoers at a music festival. That's 22-year-old Israeli-Canadian Shir Georgi, her last known sighting.
Our only hope is that she's kidnapped.
Her family says they've checked everywhere, including the morgue, but no sign of her.
The videos we've seen from the people that kidnapped and raped and abused these people, I don't know if it's better to be dead or to found kidnapped. It's horrible. It's horrible. And I can't believe that the world is actually letting something like this happen in 2023.
Hamas warned earlier this week it would execute one hostage every time Israel strikes a home in Gaza. So far as we know, Dawna, the group has not made good on that threat.
All right, Jeff Semple in Jerusalem, thanks. As Israelis mourn and bury their dead, people in Gaza wait for the next Israeli bomb to drop. Israel has put the more than 2 million Palestinians there under siege, cutting off water, power, food, and medicine. Israeli forces have been instructing Palestinians to assemble in 4 densely populated parts of the Gaza Strip. But inside these zones, civilians are not out of danger. In Gaza City, entire neighborhoods have been leveled. At least 7 mosques have been destroyed. Israel says it has already dropped over 6,000 bombs on Gaza since Saturday. Damage extends from the north to the south, where several residential towers have been destroyed. Israel says it is targeting Hamas fighters, and Hamas has a history of using civilians as human shields. According to Gaza's health ministry, of the more than 1,400 people killed, more than 60% are women and children. At the morgue at Shifa Hospital, bodies are coming in faster than relatives can claim them. The UN warns the humanitarian situation is growing more desperate by the hour.
بننام فيها والقصف شغال فوقينا وبتمنى لكل العالم انها تنصرنا بنصرة الرحمة.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Department says about 70 Canadians are stuck in the Gaza Strip right now.
They're going to bomb all these buildings.
Asia Mathkour is among them. She moved to Gaza in 2014. She's there with her husband and 2 young children, along with her parents and other relatives. They had been taking cover in her parents' basement, but fled after the house was damaged by Israeli airstrikes. And they've since relocated a number of times, trying to escape the explosions. Asia, thank you for speaking with us. I know you have your 2-year-old daughter there with you on your lap. How are you and your family doing right now?
We are not doing well. Actually, it's unimaginable, and there's no vocabulary to exactly describe what we are going through.
Do you have a place to sleep? Do you have food? Do you have water?
We've evacuated 5 times already since the escalation started, and we've been feeling so petrified and in so much terror because there's no place safe. I'm not sure if you could hear the background, but
yeah, I can. What are we hearing?
There's just some bombs.
Is it going on all the time?
Yes, you could say that, yes. We had to evacuate 5 times. Again, like I said, there's no place that's safe. We've went to a security clearance place, and we had to evacuate twice. The first time was they got a call from a settler prank, that that we had to flee the location. We went to a family resident, like a relative, and the next morning when we got cleared to go back to the hotel, we got as soon as we get there, without any previous warning, a bomb just dropped on dropped on a building right across from the hotel, And immediately after, phosphorus bombs were dropped, and we started choking. We had to take cover for safety. We had to cover our nose. Most of our lungs actually we are suffering from the aftermath of inhaling so much of the phosphorus smoke. And also, again, we had to leave the hotel, and again, we went back to the relative house. For now, it seems it's the safest location. I don't want to say safest because any minute right now we can get a call telling us to evacuate the area and the whole neighborhood. And I want to say, about speaking of neighborhoods, what's been happening to Gaza Strip is a mass extermination to neighborhoods and to families. It's a horrific catastrophe, actually, what's been going on.
Are the Israelis giving some warnings before they launch airstrikes?
Not always. Not always. Sometimes they are, and most of the time they aren't.
You know, Israel says that it's targeting Hamas fighters there, that every Hamas fighter is a dead man, they say. We know, of course, that women and children are dying there too, and innocent civilians. What do you want the world to know about that?
The targets are to civilians. You go to the hospital and it's packed. It's packed with children, women, injured, murdered kids and families. I mean, like, there's if you follow the news, which doesn't reach to Canada, a family of 18, 25 are completely wiped off. The actual hospital announced that they are running out of fuel for the generators. The injured, they're actually seeing the patients on the ground, and there's no space in the mortgage. There isn't at all.
Asia, you have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old. How are they doing?
A 5-year-old. A 5-year-old. Well, my son. My son was very. He's really scared, to be honest, and he doesn't understand what's going on. He keeps asking questions, why, and he sees that we are in terror. He sees that we are so scared, and I tried to tell him, you're strong. We can be all strong together. He told me, I cannot handle it. I cannot handle this. I cannot go through it. And he tells me, I want to leave. I don't want to stay here. I don't want to stay in this war zone. My 2-year-old daughter, every time she sleeps literally in my lap, and every time a bomb goes off, she has to she grabs onto me while she's sleeping. She goes like this, and she'd say, like, when she hears it, she'd say, like, a rocket or a bomb. I'm scared. She says the words "I'm scared" also. What I can do for them, to be honest, is tell them it's okay. We're okay. I'm here. I'm with you. Honestly, we're just waiting to be saved and to be seen by the Canadian government to help us.
There is some talk. There is some talk, Asia, about opening up a safe corridor to get people like you and your family out. Have you heard anything about that? Have you had any contact with the Canadian government?
I've only had the contact where they told me once they have more information, they will contact us. No idea of anything. And to be honest, we're in an SOS situation. I mean, like, we are evacuating. There's no internet, and there's no Wi-Fi at all. Like in while we're evacuating, while walking in the streets or going from one location to another, So, or landlines for me to call them and tell them, hey, we're here, you know? So they're expecting us from here in our situation to email them and register, and then wait for an email. And then after, just today, a news anchor told me that he's heard that we have to contact the Ramallah consul. And I was like, what? Like, nobody told me that I have to contact them. No one gave me that information that I have to go and call the consulate in Ramallah. And also, today in the morning, I'm not sure if you hear it. Yeah. Today in the morning on a radio station in Canada also, I heard for the first time that they were saying that it might take days for them to take us out. But hello, like, what am I expected to do from today till 2, 3 or 7 or 5 days? I don't know how long. What's the plan for us? I mean, what's the safety location are they providing for us Canadians right now on the ground to be secure? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Nothing. Nothing at all.
It sounds like, do you feel like you've been abandoned?
Yes, definitely. I do feel like that because, I mean, like, for me to be heard, to be honest, my family back home in Canada, my friends, oh my God, my friends, they kept contacting me. They contacted so many contacts, whatever contact they got, to get the media to contact me, to get me in touch with Canadian sources, just like you and like many other news anchors, just to be heard and for people to see us civilians here.
Asia, it sounds like you're living minute by minute right now.
We are living minute by minute because, like I said, given what I've been through, honestly, like, I thought evacuating from my house, going through the first night underground in the basement, in the sauna room, and seeing what I saw that morning, and having to evacuate, I was like, okay, no, we need to get out, right? And this is what I told my son: I will get you out. As we were walking on rubbles, trying to seek a secure area where we can stop a car to go to another safe. It was a disaster, honestly. It was so horrifying, and seeing my kids go through it all, it's indescribable, to be honest. And then the next day, when we got to, again, I'm going to say again, to a security clearance hotel, we got a call to evacuate. I mean, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's impossible to find a safe place. Asia, we will check in with you again. Thank you for taking time with us.
Thank you so much.
The Canadian government said today assisted departures from Gaza are not possible at this time, but they are working with the UN and other international organizations to try to find solutions. And Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says members of the Standing Rapid Development Team will be deployed to the region. That's a group of specialized officials that we're told will work with Canada's embassies and consulates to help Canadians in distress.
The safety and security of Canadians at home and abroad is always our top priority. The situation on the ground is volatile.
Canadians in Israel are turning up at the airport in Tel Aviv as the first evacuation flights organized by the Canadian government leave there. Our Crystal Goomansingh spoke to some of them.
A bright red beacon, a helpful sight for exhausted and desperate Canadians looking to escape.
I've done everything to stay here through other wars and other situations, and never thought in my mind to leave. But when you start realizing that this war could become global, that's a big fear.
Shirley Simon says her husband is staying behind. Leaving and taking the kids to safety, she says, feels like she's cheating. The kids, she says, won't sleep alone. They're terrified, and she's also struggling.
You try to be brave and fake it.
More than 1,600 people have registered with the federal government looking for flights out. The government says it will run 2 flights daily to Athens. Then people will be given a special code to book an Air Canada flight to Toronto.
This is different.
Aaron Butterfield says after what he witnessed, he just wants to get home to Vancouver and hug his daughter. He's not sure when or if he'll get on a flight, but he's willing to sit it out.
That coffee place is open all night, so lots of coffee.
They've opened up the gate for us on the 3rd floor, check-in counter.
Another group heads off, tired but grateful.
All the flights are booked.
Muriel Wolfman, however, is still waiting. Her dad, David, is booked on a commercial flight Monday home to Montreal. His last one was canceled. He has health issues, and he did bring extra medication, but that runs out in a few days. The family also registered him for an evacuation flight.
I'm stressed because I'm trying to balance everyone's emotions, right? So it's okay. We're going to be okay. Sorry. I have no right to be like this because people are suffering a lot more than us.
Fearing for their safety and unsure what will happen next after the attacks on Saturday, Wolfman's sister, cousin, and their children all moved into her home. David FaceTimes with his wife and daughters back in Canada.
My wife, she's an Israeli, and she was here in 1973 on Kippur War, and she knows what it is, you know.
The family says it's not just about airstrikes coming from Gaza, but the fear of more militants hiding in Israel, preparing for another strike. There haven't been widespread attacks on the streets of Israel since last weekend, but late Thursday, 2 police officers were shot and wounded by an attacker in Jerusalem's Old City. The assailant was shot dead. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine claimed responsibility. Crystal Goomansingh, Global News, Jerusalem.
What's going on in Israel and Gaza has inflamed tensions, and some members of Canada's Muslim and Jewish communities are feeling anxious. Police say there are no credible threats, but officers are stepping up patrols at religious sites to ensure the anger in Israel and Gaza doesn't spill over here. Mackenzie Gray reports.
An increased police presence near some of Toronto's most prominent Jewish institutions, ahead of a day of global demonstrations called on by the former leader of Hamas, putting the community on edge.
There's no specific threat to the city of Toronto. However, our communities have spoken clearly that they don't feel safe, and we are being responsive to that concern.
A similar sentiment shared in Ottawa, with police saying there have been no reported hate-motivated incidents targeting either a Palestinian, Muslim, or Jewish community member.
We must always stand united as Canadians. This is something that is core to Canada. We take care of each other.
Despite the political and police reassurances, some Jewish Canadians are taking extra precautions. Global News has agreed to not identify this mother, who's pulling her 6- and 9-year-olds out of school tomorrow.
I've had very scary thoughts. Dropping my kids off at school this week felt different than it did in the past.
The principal of Ottawa's largest Jewish school seeing some families follow suit.
Most parents are choosing to continue to send their kids to school. Of course, every now and again, a parent is holding a different kind of anxiety, and we understand that.
John Mitzmacher crediting the resilience of his students and staff.
These are teachers who show up every day with broken hearts and whose job it is to show up and be present and emotionally available for children who desperately need them.
Similar unease being felt by Palestinian Canadians, as the National Council of Canadian Muslims is set to hold an emergency meeting tonight on Islamophobia.
From the perspective of our community, there is a little bit of unrest, a little bit of people who are feeling anxious.
The RCMP say they're aware of threats against the Jewish community on social media and are calling on Canadians to use increased vigilance. Dawna?
Mackenzie, thanks. The U.S. Secretary of State in Israel coming up, what he said and how the U.S. could help free hostages taken by Hamas. The American Secretary of State heard firsthand about the horror of the Hamas attack last weekend. Antony Blinken arrived in Tel Aviv and he met survivors of the attack on that music festival. They urged him to make a priority of finding those who were kidnapped.
There are a lot of friends that are kept captive now in Gaza. And we were saved by miracle, but there are friends that we love that were.
Blinken told her he would do everything possible to try to bring the hostages home. Joel Senek reports.
Sorry, it's under these circumstances.
America's top diplomat now on the ground in the Middle East.
Thank you for your important visit here today.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken meeting with top Israeli officials and describing photographic evidence he was shown of Israeli civilians who were brutally killed in Hamas's attack.
It's simply depravity in the worst imaginable way.
U.S. officials say at least 27 U.S. citizens were killed in the attack, and 14 others remain unaccounted for, some of which are believed to be among the dozens being held captive in Gaza.
We're doing everything we can to secure the release of the hostages, working closely with our Israeli partners.
The FBI's hostage and rescue team is highly specialized.
Hostage negotiation experts say the U.S. will add some of the most experienced professionals to the rescue effort.
You can collaborate and brainstorm and come up with other ideas.
Secretary Blinken also discussing the humanitarian toll, drawing a clear distinction.
We know Hamas didn't commit its heinous acts with the interests of Palestinian people in mind.
U.S. officials say they are raising the issue of a humanitarian corridor with Israel and Egypt, which borders Gaza.
These two countries, Israel and Egypt, are both among the biggest recipients of U.S. aid. So that kind of gives the United States some clout here.
Influence this former State Department official says should be used, as the conflict will impact the region for years to come.
Part of the American role as a close ally and friend of Israel is to remind them of that as well, that there will be a day after, and so keep that in mind as you're moving forward in your operations.
Secretary Blinken's trip continues with stops in a number of countries over the coming days. He says his mission is clear: to stop the conflict from spreading and secure the release of hostages held by Hamas. Joel Senek, Global News, Washington.
Still ahead, the devastating impact of an earthquake in Afghanistan. The man accused of intentionally killing 4 members of a Muslim family in London, Ontario, testified in court today. 22-year-old Nathaniel Veltman took the stand in his own defense. He spoke of his rigid Christian fundamentalist upbringing and his difficult relationship with his mother, who he described as a religious fanatic who kept him out of school. Veltman testified he left home at 16, saying he hated being around his mother. He's accused of deliberately hitting 5 members of the Afzal family with his truck while they were out for a walk in London, Ontario on June 6 of 2021. There's troubling news out of Afghanistan. The UN says more than 90% of the people who were killed in last week's earthquake were women and children. Taliban officials say more than 2,000 people died in the 6.3 magnitude quake in western Afghanistan on Saturday. The UNICEF field office in the area says women and children were more likely home when the disaster struck. The earthquake and many aftershocks flattened entire villages, destroying hundreds of mud brick homes and buildings. Next, the Montreal man who's giving thanks for his Thanksgiving grocery run. A Montreal man had lots to celebrate this past Thanksgiving weekend, thanks to something he picked up while grocery shopping.
Monsieur Pierre Richer, gagnant de 50 millions. Come on over, sir.
Pierre Richer bought a Lotto Max ticket at a Montreal supermarket last week while picking up things for Thanksgiving dinner with his daughter. It turned out to be the $50 million winning pick. He says he'll keep his job in shipping for a while and plans to use the winnings to buy a new house, a car, and go on a family vacation. What he won is a pittance compared to a California jackpot. Someone there won an astounding $1.73 billion. The winning ticket holder hasn't been revealed yet. The ticket was sold at a small convenience store north of Los Angeles. And it's not even the biggest prize in U.S. Lotto history. That was a $2 billion jackpot someone won last year.